Welcome to another episode of Eight Figure Focus. I'm your host, Ephraim CPA, Managing Director of EFS Group PLLC, and also the host of this amazing podcast, Eight Figure Focus. And today, this episode is for all of you in the hairstyling industry, right? I see a lot of conversation going on Instagram and everywhere. We're going to get down to a lot of things that is happening, right? And we're also going to talk about ways to really up-level your hairstyling business. So I have a guru in this industry. She's been doing this for a long, long time. Not only is she great at what she does, but she's a marketing genius. We're also going to talk about that too. We have Gabby Allen, owner of Shade Studio. How's it going?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good. Thank you for coming into town.
You're welcome.
I know we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yep.
And you've been one of the biggest proponents of pushing me forward and getting this done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
No problem. No problem. So how we do on Eight Figure Focus is before we jump in, we like to talk about where you're from, how you got started. So can you tell everybody, where you're from and where you grew up? And
so I'm from New Orleans originally. Grew up there, born, raised, still live there. I got into this industry, it's about 25. I went to cosmetology school. And it took me 3 years to get through school only because I finished my hours early, but I was paying for it by tuition out of pocket.
Okay.
So
wait. So it takes shorter than 3 years, I guess?
Yeah, it's like 1,500 hours.
Okay.
So the program itself took me a year, but they don't let you take your tests until you've paid them completely off, right? Yeah. So you can leave and everything, but they're like, you're not taking a test until we get our money.
Okay.
So, so I spent another 2 years paying my tuition off completely, completely funded by blog money. And
we didn't talk about that. Yeah.
Completely funded by blog money. I was working behind the chair for a year before I realized that there was education that I needed, but I didn't have the money to get it. So I started working for a company called Joico's color company. And in exchange for my time, they gave me education that would otherwise have cost me an exponential amount of money. Now, they still paid me to go and work for them and everything. But the trade-off, the pay wasn't super high, but the trade-off was education. And I hit 6 figures working for them in a year.
Wait, hold on. You hit 6 figures working for them?
Yes.
Within a year?
Yes.
Just based off of everything that they taught you and wow, okay.
Yep, the color education just took it over the top.
Obviously you can charge more and and that's a skill that not too many have, I would think.
Not too many African-American hairstylists have.
Interesting.
There's not a lot of good African-American colorists.
Okay.
It's like a unicorn type thing.
Is there a reason why?
Because it's chemistry, and we historically are more style-oriented and not chemistry-oriented.
Yeah.
But I started doing color because I was getting bored. Yeah. I was doing the same thing over and over again. And I was just like, I'm kind of losing interest in this. So color had piqued my interest since I had been in school, but I didn't learn it in school, and I didn't really know where to learn it. And I went to a class at one of my local wholesale suppliers, and one of the girls was a Joico educator. She's an Asian, she was actually a friend of mine now, but she's an Asian woman. But after class, I asked her, how did you get into this? And it wasn't even a color class, it was an updo class.
Wow.
And I asked her, well, how did you get into this? And she just freely gave me the information. Yeah. So, and then it's going to sound weird, but then I stalked another educator online, and then I did for a while, and I DM'd her. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I see you are with Joico. And she gave me the information. Now, prior to those two, every other company that I inquired with acted like it was some kind of secret society. Like they wouldn't give up the information or whatnot. So I was like, maybe I'm missing something. So really the people attracted me to Joico more than anything, because they were so free and they were so giving. And then when I got there, I just soaked in everything that I could while I was with them.
Wow.
So and fast forward, I went to instructor school, instructor training. I actually retake my test in December to officially get my instructor's license. And I learned more color education because I went to Paul Mitchell for my instructor training, and they are like heavy with color. That's just about, that's like the bulk of what they do.
Interesting.
So and the reason that they even let me in the program was because of my knowledge of natural hair.
Okay.
I literally only had 2 classmates.
Wow.
That's how like hard it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So you and 2 other people, 2 other women.
2, yeah.
Wow.
And literally my direct, I mean, I can say this now because she don't work for him no more, but she let me in and she knew I didn't know color.
Okay.
And she was like, but you better learn.
Yeah.
She was
like what was it about you that she saw that was like, I need to let her in?
Because I know natural hair. And they were looking to add that to their curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking to add African American hair to their curriculum. And not many people know it.
Yeah.
So she was like, the student, like, you have to learn quick because the students can't know.
Right.
So, I'm not going to say her name, but, you know.
Shout out to her.
Right. Thank the Lord for her, you know, putting her in my path.
Right.
But I obsessed for 3, because even though I was working for Joico at the time, I still wasn't solid on like the color theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I obsessed over it for like a good 3 months. I'd literally like, because I'm a binge learner. Like when I'm learning something, I completely immerse myself in it. There were times where I was on it, called it the clinic classroom floor, which is basically like it's not really a mock salon. It actually is a salon. Mm-hmm. But when you're at a school, you get it at a the customers get it at a discounted rate because it's a school, right? Okay. Literally on the clinic classroom floor every day. And these students had no idea that I didn't know color. But I was getting so far ahead of them that when they started asking questions, it just seemed like I knew everything. Mm. So, obviously if they watch this podcast, they're going to know, wow, she faked that really good. She faked that, but because I faked that. But I was, like I said, I was completely immersing myself in it. So by the time month 6 came, I was like one of the primary instructors that they were coming to. And I was in training. I was in school, right? Yeah. So I was like between the instructors and a student. So like the actual licensed instructors oversaw me, but I still had to act as an instructor, if that makes sense. So, but anything that I did or didn't do, the actual licensed instructors were responsible for. Nice. So yeah, that's how that happened.
So you were at Joico. You said within the first year you made 6 figures?
Within the first week, yes.
And then, so how long were you at Joico before you left?
I left Joico when COVID hit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but you started your business when?
COVID was 2020, so 2017, 2018, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So about like 4 to 5 years ago.
You know what? No, I'm lying. It was longer than that because one of my clients told me she's been coming to me for 7 years and I had no idea. Okay. I was looking like, what? I was just like, yeah, it's been that long.
Okay. So you were doing Joico and then you had your business on the side, I guess, or at the same time?
No. So with Joico, it was like contract work, right? Okay. So they give you access to like all of these back end trainings and stuff because they need you to know it when they call you to go to a show, right? Sometimes we would like actually get called to do trainings. As a matter of fact, my intro training was in Dallas. And once they trained us and stuff, like they would send us new products, they would send us all the new education because each color line has its own education. Like no 2 color lines are the same. So I'm educated in like 3 of them and learning the 4th one. Okay. So if you don't know it, you don't know like all of the intricacies of it. Like I can hand you a tube of it, but you're not going to be able to get the results that I get because I know it. Right. So, yeah.
So what made you cut the Joico relationship off and just really go full into your business?
Well, COVID. And honestly, they weren't hindering me because it was contract work. I was still working in the salon like at the time, I think 5 days a week. Yeah. But when they would call, I would just close my books and go. Okay. Yeah. So they really wasn't a hindrance. It was working hand in hand. But when COVID hit, people have to downsize. Everybody was uncertain. Right. I still they're still really cool people. A lot of the educators I'm still cool with. We're in a group text on Facebook messengers. Yeah. We'll ask each other questions because a lot of us are in the same area. Okay. So, no love lost. Right. It just was like, okay, these are trying times, you know. So
that makes sense. Yeah. So you were a blogger back in the day, right?
I was.
Like, how long ago was that?
I started blogging when I was 21. I'm 34.
Wow. So 13. So about 2009.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like you built up a nice following back then, I would think, with your blog.
Yeah, it was an accident.
Yeah, talk about that.
To be honest with you, I started going natural literally because I was bored. And I was tired.
I'm seeing this boredom thing. It's a recurring theme.
It is a recurring thing. It's just like I get bored and then I learn stuff and then boom, money.
Right.
So I was bored with my hair and I started to feel like I looked like everybody else. Like it was like this factory thing. Everybody had a relaxer. Everybody looked the same. And I was just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And I had never seen my actual hair. One of my aunts used to tell me all the time that I never needed a relaxer. It was just a lot of hair for my mom to handle. So she gave me one for ease of her. I mean, she had 6 kids, 4 girls, 2 boys.
Wow. Yeah.
Hair is an issue when it's a lot, so she was just trying to make her life easier. But once I went natural, I remember I had my hair covered up for like an entire year. I got braids. I would take them down, get my hair cut some, then put them back in. And I did this for an entire year. At the time, my dad was living in Georgia and I emailed him a picture of like my fro. Yeah. And he was like, I know that's a wig, right? And I was like, no. He's like, you really walking around like that? And I was like,
but
yeah.
That's how he used to walk around, right?
No, that's exactly. I have a picture. I have literally a picture of this. No, several pictures.
Yeah.
Of him with a fro.
Okay.
But it was jarring for me because it was like, that's not, at the time, that wasn't the norm, right? Like guys, and at the time I was in a relationship. So he actually made a good point. Mike's made a good point. He was like, y'all women woke up one day and decided to go natural and y'all just want us to accept it. But our mamas, our grandmothers been being fried, dyed, laid to the side for a long time. Like it took a long time for y'all to accept it. Why y'all think we just gonna accept it overnight? And I was like, you know what? He actually has a point.
That's a point, right?
That's a really great point, right? I was like, yeah, that's true. So once I started it took me a while to figure out my hair. It took me 3 years to figure out how to do a twist out. Like literally trial and error. But I just started sharing the information online. It actually started off with a Tumblr and a Twitter account.
Interesting.
I don't know if you remember Tumblr. Do you remember Tumblr? Yeah. It started off with a Tumblr blog and a Twitter account. Okay. And it just started growing like crazy. And I used to do these natural hair chats every Sunday. And the number of the people that would be on it, like I'm young. I'm not thinking anything of it, right? Like I'm not thinking about my reach. It didn't really hit me until I did this series with hairstylists, like as many natural hairstylists as I could find back then. And it was this one specific one, Alicia Tucker. She's located in Chicago. Her brand is called iBaby Hair. It's cute, right? iBaby Hair. Yeah, iBaby Hair. So I did an interview with her asking her about her experiences being a natural hairstylist in a climate that at the time didn't support that. And we wrote the story up, put it on my blog, and it went viral. And like she contacted me and was like, my clientele has exploded because of you. Wow. And that's when it really hit me, my reach. Because I was just doing it. I was like, okay, cool, this is cool, right? Then people started offering me free products. Then people started offering me to be on stage and stuff. Then people started offering me money. Yeah. And it was like, oh, this could actually be a thing. Right. So similar to, how we are with business, you find a community. I found a community of bloggers and they started to put me on like opportunities, different companies that were paying bloggers, different sponsored rates and stuff like that. So I was actually a full-time blogger for a little bit.
Nice. So, because I remember blogging was such a big deal back then, right? Yeah. I remember a lot of the blogs, especially like the blogs before, like the popular pages on Instagram have come up, like Shade Room and stuff like that. Like before that, there was a lot of blogs. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I used to read a few of them. Used to read a few of them. But okay, so now you're on Instagram, you're on all the platforms. You have a really big following on Instagram. Like I want to say, last time I checked, it was like in the 120s.
128.
128,000.
Yeah.
Did you have to start over that following, or did a lot of them like kind of find you from your blogging days?
A lot of them found me from my blogging days, but when I got behind the chair, I think I was only at like 45,000. Okay. 40 or 45,000. Okay. And once I started kind of transitioning the page from me to hair, my clients, that's when it really started to explode.
Right.
So yeah, so that happened.
So let's talk about your studio, right? You've had the studio since 2017, 2018.
No, it was 2020.
2020 was when you had, okay.
2021, I'm lying.
Oh, 2021.
Wait, I'm lying again. It's 2020. I'm trying because it's COVID. You know, COVID has like the years.
Has fried our brains.
Yeah, for real. But then I'm like, I remember coming off lockdown, I started building it in July of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was renting at a friend's salon while I was building that salon.
Right.
So that's why it's foggy.
So you have your own salon, but before then you were renting out of a salon.
I was renting out of a suite before that.
Out of a salon suite.
Yeah, at a salon suite. And before that, I was actually renting out of, I had been at 3 other salons prior to that.
Okay.
So, but while I was building it, I moved out of the salon suite and just started renting a chair at a friend of mine's, a cut cost.
Okay.
Because the salon suite, I mean, in comparison to other cities, I was paying like $1,000 a month. But by her, it was like $150 a week, whatever that is. I don't do math without calculators, so whatever that is, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
You probably know better than I do. But I was cutting costs because I was funneling so much money into my salon. And it was really my personal savings, which I didn't know better at the time. You know, use other people's money. I know that now.
Right.
But at the time, I didn't know. So I was paying for that, and I was building the salon, and I still had my online stuff and everything. So yeah, I don't even know how I got through that period.
Yeah.
It was literally, it had to be the Lord, because there's
That
no other
period
way.
was foggy. And
It's
so much
so
was happening.
foggy.
Because I remember during that time, you know, me and Rita, we had the boys. They were like 1 year old.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, and we're like working on Zoom. They're in the background destroying everything, and
Not
people who are on Zoom
stuff.
are watching all the destruction, right? And so much business was coming in at that time, and it's like you look back, you're like, how in the world did I juggle that without getting a haircut for like a year?
That's crazy.
Really,
how did I not
crazy.
lose my mind? That's what I was thinking. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have your own salon. How has that experience been versus renting out of a salon suite?
The money I spent on that place. I wasn't really, like, I was prepared to make that, financially, I was prepared to make the investment. Mentally, I was not.
Right.
I wasn't. You know, you have extra bills. It's everything's on you. With a salon suite, it's like you pay them the fee, they handle everything else. Renting a
like
chair,
an apartment.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You rent a chair, they handle everything. But now, like, if something's going wrong, it's totally on me.
Right.
So, honestly, I've never even told anybody this story. For an entire year.
Wait, this is the 8-Figure Focus exclusive. Go ahead. Go ahead.
For an entire year, I didn't pay my electricity bill.
Okay.
But my electricity was on the whole time.
Wow.
It was under somebody else's name.
Black people, we always find a loophole through everything, right? How many of you, if you didn't have to pay your electricity bill for a year, wouldn't pay it? I'm just saying.
It really, because I had so much other stuff going on.
Right, you were busy and everything.
Yeah, it didn't dawn on me like, how is your electricity on and you ain't paying no bills?
Right.
You know, on it. It didn't happen until they cut it off.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out, like, why the electricity
Wait, so
off?
did you have to pay like the backlog of everything that you didn't pay?
did.
Wow.
I did. The guy that was in there before me, he never told them that he left. And he never disconnected the electricity.
Right.
So because of COVID, they weren't pursuing it, right? So then when things started to go semi-normal again, you know, then it was kind of like red flag, you know. Now, luckily, by the grace of the Lord, I had the money to pay for it. But it was a very much unexpected bill that I wasn't expected to pay for. But that's just like one of those, you know, ownership things, you know.
How did you have the money? Like, did you have, like, let's say, a savings somewhere that you were putting money aside for just emergencies?
Yeah, so I've grown up in a church my whole life. My grandfather's a pastor, right? My dad is a teacher of the word, my uncle, so I've learned a lot from them. A lot of the concepts and stuff that the mental approaches I take to my business are biblical based because it's been basically plainly spelled out to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a scripture that says, put oil in your vessel and in your lamp, right? So when I was young, I always heard that it meant save money, right? Have money to spend and have money in your savings. Like it's literally a teaching that the Lord Jesus teaches, right? But when you're young and stupid with money, something, I don't care how much somebody drills something in your head, you don't get it, right? So once I got in business, I started thinking back to those teachings, and I started taking that approach, right? So I always had emergency savings for my business, for my salon, regular savings, checking account. I would pay stuff ahead of time because there's another, being taught this growing up, there's another scripture that says prepare beforehand. So I apply that to my life. Like even down to my bills, like my rent is paid up 2 months in advance. Because I don't want y'all telling me nothing, first of all. I don't want y'all to tell me anything. But two, it seriously is, I really take a biblical approach when it comes to my business. So I try to, I'm not going to say that I've perfected this skill because I haven't. But I try to do it to the best of my ability. But I really saw the benefits of it when I got into situations like those. And I'm not going to lie, even though I had it, I didn't want to give it to them. It wasn't like...
No one wants to give away money.
No, nobody wants to give it away. But it was like, at least it was there. I was thankful that I had taken heed to it because at least it was there. Because I do understand there are people who didn't have my upbringing, who the scriptures weren't that clear to, like, you see what I'm saying? Like the practical application of it. So I try my best not to take credit for it. It's not like I'm this genius. I'm not that smart. It's just, it's how I was taught, growing up. I tried my best to apply those principles to my personal life, my business, everything. And it works out in my favor. Yeah.
So you have your own salon. Do you have people that work for you, like not work for you, but work within your salon as hairstylists?
Not anymore. I don't. I'm actually in the process of rehiring. So it depends on what you do, right? In the summertime, things get really slow if you don't do braids. Like if you're a braider, it picks up. If you don't, like every family's going on vacation, kids out of school, all that good stuff. And it usually picks up in October. So I have a good friend out here who's a hairstylist, and she makes like $500,000 a year, and that's just her.
Wait, hold on. You just said that so nonchalant. She makes how much?
Like $500,000 a year.
$500,000.
But that's without staff. That's just her doing extensions.
Hold on, let's slow down. She makes. All I heard was she makes $500,000 a year by herself.
Yes.
With no staff.
No staff. None.
Doing hair.
Just doing hair.
Maybe we should come back to that, but I'm definitely.
So I made a point to. I made a point to say that because even I talked to her. She was like, "Yeah, things are even slow for me. Like the slow period was way longer than it usually is." And I was like, "What's going on?" Right. So during that time, I'm just being completely honest. I've lost staff or whatnot, which is fine because I wish the best for my people no matter what. So I'm in the process of rebuilding. But before that, I had about 2 people working for me virtually, 3 people actually in the salon.
Okay. Oh, so wow. Wait, 2 people virtually?
Yeah, like assistants and
okay.
handling.
I was like, wow, you got people doing hair virtually.
I wish.
I was like, I didn't even know that was possible.
Right, I wish, but I do have a concept behind that brewing in my head. I'm just trying to slow myself down because I got some other projects coming up. Yeah. But I do have a concept behind it.
Isn't it exciting when you have like an idea?
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, I should be focused on what I'm doing, but this idea just keeps nagging.
But that's the beauty of business, right?
8-figure focus.
It's the beauty of business. You can come up with an idea and literally watch it come to fruition, right? But you got to have the support to make sure that you're not letting the balls drop on the way.
The ideas that I have normally get rolled out 2 years from whenever I have the idea.
That's fair. You know what? I feel the same way about.
This one was 6 years, but
Was it really? That's crazy.
2016. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like.
But 2 years is on average. I compartmentalize it in my head. I'm like, okay, let me park it back here. This is good. Yeah. I'm gonna focus on everything else, but I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, because it took me about 2 years to launch my academy, my online academy. So that's about right.
We gotta talk about that too.
Yeah.
So your ladies that used to work for you, how would you pay them, right? Because in the hairstyling world, from what I've seen, right, with my clients, you have booth rent, you have commission, you have hourly pay.
hmm
What was your preferred method of payment?
Mine was hourly, but they also got a chance to make more money by coming with me to teach. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to pay them like a day rate for
Nice.
that. So, and I also provided education for them, whether I was educating them or I paid for a class or something like that. So I incentivized them, to stick around. On the average, it was about 2 years for them that they
Mm-hmm.
stayed there. I finally figured that out. On average, people stay with me about 2.5 years.
Okay.
But the reason I chose hourly was for stability,
Right.
right? Because in this industry, you don't really have stability even
Mm-hmm.
most commission salons, unless you have a really high volume salon. And even if you do, the owners want you to go out and get your clientele, right, and pay them part of the commission because I mean, to be fair, they are fronting the products, fronting all of the equipment, and everything. But when things are slow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there is also a law being rolled out. It's already started in California. Basically, the government is getting hold of our industry, saying, okay, we are giving you guys money for schools, right? So on the average cosmetology education for a year is $25,000. That's
Okay.
just school. That's not other advanced education. That's
Right.
literally just school for a year. So they're basically like, the government's like, we're giving you guys student loans, but there is no guaranteed employment because every school guarantees you placement,
Wow.
but it usually doesn't happen, right?
Right.
So what's happening is hairstylists are getting out and they're defaulting on their loans. So the government isn't looking at the students, they're looking at the schools and they're like, why should we keep giving y'all money if no one's
Right.
coming out with employment or paying? Because in this industry, you can get paid under the table. Like, you graduate from
Wow.
school with your license. Like, if I don't want to accept cards, I don't have to.
Right.
I can accept all cash. If I wanted to be a cheaper hairstylist and just do volume, I could make a ton of money
Mm-hmm.
that the IRS never tracks, right?
Right.
So that in turn bleeded over to the salons, and it was like, okay, what is the pay structure here?
Mm-hmm.
And every major change in our industry starts in California, right?
Yeah.
So what they did was they started telling them to level the playing field. So let's say we have like an open floor like this, right? You walk in a salon, someone has a booth where you're at, someone has a booth where I'm at, right? That's no longer, you can no longer call that a commission salon in California.
Wow.
Like that, you have to pay them, I think it's double minimum wage coming out of school.
So minimum wage in California is 15
Yep.
an hour. So you got to pay at minimum $30 an hour
Coming out of school.
coming out of school.
Right.
Because they have an education, they have a degree now.
Yeah. So it's like their way of leveling the employment
Right.
field, right? But if you have like salon suites and stuff,
Yeah.
then that can be considered booth rent.
Right.
But an open floor salon, and I've talked to a few hairstylists in California, and some of the owners say it works, and it's been working out well. At first, they were on the fence about it, but if you have a stylist in your salon that has been working commission and she's making 6 figures on commission,
Right.
she might not be too happy with that switch.
No.
No. She might, unless you can make her hourly wage the equivalent
Right.
of the salary she was making before.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, that's what's happening. The government is like peeking behind the curtain and they're like, in order for us to pay back the loans, we need you salon owners to make this change. And again, that's already started in California. Usually it bleeds over to the rest of the states.
First of all, everything starts in California, I've noticed. But this information that you just gave just blew my mind, right? Because it makes so much sense.
Right.
I'm going to school, I'm getting this degree, this education, but I'm graduating and there's nowhere for me to work that's going to pay me hourly at minimum.
Right.
And so normally whenever I go to school and I get a degree in the hairstyling world, I'm thinking that most people are probably just going to go, if they can't find somewhere to work, they're going to go do their own hair. I mean, like do hair outside. Right.
Yeah, booth rental or out their house.
From home.
Yeah.
And so now if the revenue, if the income is inconsistent, then obviously you can't pay this loan back. Right. So you're giving all this money to the schools are benefiting, but the government's not getting the benefit and their money back. Right. Wow. So I have this conversation with a lot of my clients, right? Because you have a few that when they come in, they're doing booth rent. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, booth rent's cool for those of you who want to do it, but it limits you in how much you can make because booth rent is all about how much space do I have.
Real estate.
Real estate. The more space, the more real estate I have, the more stylists I can put into that space
Right.
and collect the money.
Right.
I know there's I had met like a salon suite owner, a salon park owner here years ago that was doing like $1 million a year in that, but he had like 72 locations. I mean, 72 suites in his salon park.
Gotcha.
And they were all fully booked.
That sounds like my dream. Sounds like my dream. Because I want to own salon suites. That's actually what I want to do.
Yeah.
This current salon that I had actually was never meant to be what it is. It really was for capital. Really, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to booth rent and take that money, run a salon, and build my capital. But what I found was happening, my students, like my old students, were reaching out to me. And I mean, I have a soft spot for my students. I do. I have a soft spot for my students. So I couldn't see myself not giving them some form of stability, which is how this other stuff was born, right? Kind of changing my own plan up in like, okay, how can I best offer them what I didn't have? Because I didn't have guidance in this industry. The only guidance I had, believe it or not, was the guidance from the hairstylist that I had made friends with when I was a blogger. Like those are the only ones that I like, you know, thank the Lord for them. Because when I would reach out, it's crazy relationship building, right? Stuff doesn't pay off for you till years later, right? So, I mean, because I never wanted to be a hairstylist. This was not in the plan, right? So reaching back out to them, because I knew they were more seasoned than me, they were, you know, happily, openly giving me information as best they could when it came to like the business side of it. So this salon that I have now is really supposed to be for capital, so I can open my salon suites. Because my goal is to open a training center and salon suites.
You could definitely do that. You can there's so many ways you can do your salon suites, right? Like leveraging other people's money, like you said. You know, we could talk about that off camera, but and then maybe one episode we might talk about that in full. You know, I think that's an important thing to
because that's
about.
I will say this industry is very gated. Extremely gated.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can definitely imagine. So we talked about. Let's go back real quick, right? So we have booth rent, we have commission, we have hourly. So booth rent, in my opinion, is the worst. Then second is commission. Commission is that's decent. Yeah. But the sweet spot is hourly. That's also the hardest, I would think.
It depends. I think it depends on how you present it, right?
It's all on how you present it.
Yeah. So, and even with commission, right? I did the marketing before I became licensed. I did marketing for a salon based out of Seattle, like completely from home. I was working for New Orleans. And when I applied for the job, it was actually an intern position. But when she found out my experience, she was like, well, how much you want, you know, or whatever. And I told her. So I became like her marketing manager. And she was the first African-American woman I had been exposed to that not only had a successful salon, but she had like 7 stylists. It was booked 8 weeks out.
Hold on. She's in Seattle and she's African-American.
Yeah, well, she sold the salon. She actually sold the salon. She sold the salon, moved to Hawaii on a farm with her husband at the time. Like, it was an Airbnb out her house. It was crazy. I was like, you are goals. Yeah, but she, she had 7 stylists and they were all on commission. But she was booked the whole salon was booked 8 weeks out at a time. Right. She had like a 6-figure salary, but she wasn't behind the chair. She had products. She was building out her website because I oversaw that build out. All kinds of stuff. And I remember, because prior to meeting her, all I knew was booth rent, right? And I remember, like, as we were on a call one day, and I was like, I have a serious question to ask you, right? Because I'm like doing
I can see you. You don't really hide questions.
Yeah, right? I'm like, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, they had 401ks, they had paid vacation, they had everything. And like I said, prior to meeting her, I only ever knew booth rent. Right. So I was like, how are you? Like, I said, are your stylists booth rent? She said, no, they're on commission. And I was like, well, how does that work? And she like,
what was her commission split?
I don't remember, to be honest with you, but I know it was enough to where she was still making a 6-figure salary and she
Right.
was not behind the chair.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like, and she actually just called me a month ago.
Yeah.
So we actually still in contact and
Nice.
stuff. I try to get her to do education, but she refuses.
Really?
Yeah, because I would like tell him like you are so needed, it's not even funny.
Right.
But she like I'm done.
She's living that good life.
Yeah,
right?
she's done. She's over.
So we said booth rent was the worst, right? Commission.
The worst.
Commission is second, right? But
Mhm.
it's all on how you do the commission, right? Like if you
The
can
commission and the hourly, yeah.
right, if you can get a commission split, which for many is hard,
Yeah.
right? But if you can get a commission split of 70-30, 65-35 with
Mhm.
the 70 or 65 going to you
Yeah.
and the 30 or 35 going to the
But
stylist.
that's not gonna happen.
Right.
That's not
Right.
gonna happen.
Unless you're like a magician and like selling that to the stylist.
or unless
whatnot.
you're really high priced.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like you have to, in order to give somebody a decent paycheck at 30 or 45%, your services have to be either that or you have to
And
have
then-
some
and then
serious
volume.
quantity. Yeah,
Right.
so serious volume coming in. And the reason that I personally have never been a fan of commission is because I like looking at the bigger picture.
Mhm.
I really believe the salon owner can't serve their stylist the way they need to
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, and you would know better than me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looking at the back end of it is like, how much money is actually going into the business if I'm paying out all of this
Right.
money, and then you as the owner, you still have to live.
And that's one of the things that, you know, whenever we get clients in the industry that we have to fix, right? Because a lot of times the money that's going out in commission, it could be 80, it could be 70% to the stylist.
Right.
And that 20-30 is to the owner.
Right.
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 And so you're trying to take care of your stylist, but essentially you're at a negative. You're at like not a good spot, right? Because that 20-30% that you have coming in, you have to use that to pay yourself and your rent, products, marketing,
Any support staff
supporting
might have.
staff, right?
Yeah.
So you get burnt out
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
right? So it's all a numbers game, right? Which is
Right.
why I like hourly, like you like it,
Mhm.
right? Because, okay, you're coming in, you're going to work, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours.
Right.
Hopefully, we're going to have you filled up, you know, to where you can work 6 to 8 hours
Right.
and, you know, generate a nice amount of money
Right.
per head, right? And then I pay you a nice amount of money per hour.
Right.
And now I know every month that, okay, this is how much I'm going to pay Gabby.
Right.
So I can easily forecast that out,
Thanks.
right? And then I can track how much I'm making off of each head that's coming in.
Right.
The issue, though, I see is that a lot of stylists got to get really, really cold at marketing.
Yeah, and so that is an issue, right? Because when you come into a salon that is hourly or commission based, you know, especially if the clientele is flowing through and you didn't have to do nothing but show up to work, you know, why would I market myself? Like I don't have to. You know, you're doing all of the work for me. All I need to do is show up to work. And I think hourly has been criminalized because the idea that if I go booth rent, I'll make way more than I am on hourly. And it's not that you won't, it's just that you don't, like most stylists don't factor in the expenses.
Right.
Right? Like if I could have started at a salon that was hourly and I had upward mobility and
benefits, all that.
all I had to do was show up to work.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's women out there that would do that, I would think. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, I guess you could say.
Right, right.
But we're in that space where we think everybody wants to be that.
Right, because we want to be one.
Right.
Yeah, and everybody, so there are people looking for job security even in this industry, but.
So how many, outside of your, would you call her a mentor? The one in Seattle?
What do you mean, what did I call her?
Would you call her a mentor?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, so your mentor in Seattle, outside of her and what she did, how many other stylists in the industry have done something similar? Because she had upward mobility, I would think. She had benefits. Yeah. She had the whole, everything was set. Yeah. And then you said she sold it.
She sold it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So look how attractive that kind of model is to someone that's going to buy, that wants to buy.
Right. And then she was in a really good spot in Seattle.
Yeah.
Because the clients that were booking weren't just they were coming from Canada. They were coming from like all of the surrounding areas.
Right.
Literally coming in.
I would think her competition would possibly be less than if she was in like an Atlanta or Houston.
She was a hell of a marketer.
Yeah.
She was. But that's why she brought me on.
Mm-hmm.
To expand it. But
Right.
she even did movie showings.
Yeah.
Like had people come and watch movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So she really,
as they're getting their hair done.
No, like separate from the salon, but connected to the salon. Like Good Hair, like the name of the salon was Good Hair, but Good Hair presents like this movie showing, right?
Okay.
But that attracted people.
Right.
She was also very personable.
Yeah.
Very personable. And she wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. So if, let's say, the front desk person went out or whatever, left, got fired, she would jump in. Now, what she didn't do was jump in behind the chair because she didn't want to give her clients the idea that she was back.
Right. And so that's like, I definitely want to cover that, right? Because I like this hourly conversation that we're having because it frees up more money to do things, right? But it's only going to really work if you become really, really great at marketing and you're able to get women coming in and out every single day to make sure that your stylists are fully at capacity.
Right.
Because once they're fully at capacity, you could literally walk away from the chair. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have that conversation with you, because I know a lot of stylists, they get burnt out, right?
Yeah.
And you want to get from behind the chair. You even said earlier, you don't want to be behind the chair like forever.
I don't.
Right. And it's like, how do we create an actual business in this industry, make it more professional, right? So that we can do those type of things.
Yeah.
And it looks like your mentor, figured it out and just walked away.
Yeah, but they were still on commission, but they were very happy where they were.
Right.
Because I used to have to call a salon since I was doing the marketing. I used to have to call the salon and be like, I need your pictures, I need your videos, I need your, so they were happy where they were working at. I just think, like I said, the hourly model gets criminalized, especially when you don't explain it to stylists to say like, hey, in order for us to grow, this is what needs to happen. Versus like, I'm the owner, do what I say, this is, they're not, puppets.
Right.
They're still people, and this is already a very high turnover industry. If you had a model to where whether somebody walks in the door or not, I still get paid. Because I mean, I had people, when I had people on hourly, I had people that canceled. Guess what? I still had to pay them. And look, one of my stylists, she was somebody canceled. She was on TikTok making videos. And I'm not like, if I trust you, I'm not a micromanager. I don't care. Because it's not your fault they canceled.
Right.
Because that person canceled, she had a gap of time before the next client came. So she was just making TikTok videos. Right. But she still got paid for that. So it creates stability for everybody. But I think because in this industry, the idea of hourly is taboo. Right. It's something that has to be explained. And really like shown like, okay, this is the benefit of you being on hourly.
Most definitely. I think this is a great conversation. We talked about marketing, right? And how you have to become really, really great at marketing as a hairstylist. And there's hairstylists that I know that are really, really good. And their work is so good that they have a wait list, right? But they can't service everybody. Right. And then because you're so busy working on everyone's head, you can't train the next person. Right. You can't manage them properly because you're running in and out of the salon trying to make sure that you hit your appointments. Right. How do they become better at marketing? You're a marketing genius, I feel.
Oh, thank you.
You were a marketing manager for your mentor. You've built your Instagram following. You've built TikTok. You've built all these platforms. Like, what are some strategies that they can employ to help them get more clients?
I would say to educate more. One of the issues when the natural hair movement started, I can say this because I was at the beginning of it. People it never started off as, let me tell people how to do their hair. I'm just telling you what I do with my hair. Right. But the issue was there was no education out there. Hairstylists weren't showing up. They weren't showing up online. And honestly, the ones that were showing up, Raymond Tarragano, Monet Everett. At that time, the theory was the game is sold, not told. And these two were telling it on YouTube, right? But they were giving the education that was needed, so it was attracting people. And they got a lot of flack. I wasn't a hairstylist at the time, but they've told me their stories there several times. And they got a lot of flack from their industry counterparts because they were giving it out. But it's like, if you don't educate the people, this is what we do.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't get it, if you don't give it to them, someone else is going to give it to them. And that's exactly what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I still see it happening to this day, that hairstylists aren't showing up online and actually educating because they feel like if I tell you what products I'm using, you're not going to come to me.
Right.
If I tell you how to do this, you're not going to come to me. But that's not true. You know, it takes, 10,000 hours to master a skill. I've served my 10,000 hours. No matter what I tell you, no matter what I show you, you're not going to be able to do this.
You can't duplicate it.
Right, because you don't have the practice that I have.
Right.
So I think, the biggest thing is getting out of your own head and getting out of your own way that somebody's trying to take something from you.
Right.
And if anything, educating online attracts more people to you.
Right.
Because they want to know, right? And hairstylists, for the most part, will never not have a job because I don't even like doing my own hair. Right. People can learn till the cows come home, but most people just want to operate in what they're good at. Yeah. Right. And they could try and error. Of course, you're going to have some people that figure it out, but that's not the masses. Right. Right. Because I think you could say the same thing. You can go on YouTube and take classes and learn, but are you going to have the patience and the wherewithal to do that constantly? Right. Probably not. Because I'm a person who does not like math. Right. I like money, but I don't like math. Right. So of course I can only handle it for so long before it's like, I've had enough. Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing out here right now is people want to be educated on their hair. Yeah. And they want you to basically prove yourself through the noise before they decide to book an appointment with you. So that's part of marketing. Like it doesn't have to be anything super complex. I think people overthink it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was
it's teaching, 8-figure focus. You can.
Yeah. I'm saying I'm not going to say where it was, but
okay.
I was teaching in New York and it was hairstylists, but I was teaching them like how to detangle our hair. Like to me, that's a simple skill, but to them it wasn't. So if these hairstylists don't know, the consumers probably don't know. Yeah. Right. So it's simple stuff like that, how to detangle hair, what brush you should use, which detangler should I use, should I get my hair trimmed? Like that is a source of contention on my page. Right. Like every time I do a haircut, matter of fact, I just did a Facebook Live. What's the day? Saturday? I don't lost track of the days. It's Saturday, right? Yeah. I did a Facebook Live Thursday. My client came in to get a haircut. It was a new client. She came in to get a haircut. And people were hyperventilating in the comments. But as I was doing it, I was teaching them and explaining to them why they needed to get their hair cut because they don't understand it. Right. There is trauma linked to African American women and our hair. Everybody thinks whatever their auntie did when they was 5 is still affecting their hair now. It's like, nah, sis, stop giving that lady that charge. Right. It's you. It's you. It's you. And I'm not faulting you for not knowing what you're doing because we've also adapted this idea that Black people are born knowing how to do hair. Right. Do you cut your own hair? No. I have no desire to. Right. Would you ever try to cut your own hair? Right. So there's just like they think all of us are athletic or all of us can dance. Like we've bought into those ideas too. Yeah. Right. Because there is a source of shame for a mom who doesn't know how to braid and she looks like us, but it's like, why? Right. Like you're an engineer. Why would you know how to braid? That doesn't make sense.
This has been a great conversation so far, and one of the things that I definitely want to cover is pricing, right? Because I feel like that's been a big issue, not only in the hairstyling industry, but just in business in general. Some of the prices that I've seen people come up with, I'm like, where did you come up with that? You're just pulling it out of the sky, or maybe you're looking at what your competitors might charge, or you're looking at how your consumer, the person who's buying from you, would want to pay. Right. And that's not that's like the wrong thing to do. Yeah. Right. I don't think a lot of stylists charge enough.
They don't.
But then when you go on social media, the consumers, the ladies are saying the stylists are overcharging. Right. Right. So I see that all the time where there's like everyone's on different wavelengths. Right. Let's talk about that, right? Like with the pricing, how should someone come up with pricing? Because you coach students. You have people that you coach. Yeah. How do you coach them to come up with pricing?
Well, I actually have a whole pricing guide in the ebook that I have.
Look at that.
It's an entire pricing guide. The book is literally called How to Get Clients and Price Like a Boss. And there's like a pricing formula in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me what it is right now because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. And they should pay for it.
They should pay for it. But there's a pricing formula in there to help. So personally, when I first started, I kind of, just like everybody else, I looked around to see what everyone around me was charging. Because when you're in a salon space, you usually go by what the person next to you is charging, right? But as I started to learn more and I started to be exposed to more, I was like, this math ain't mathing, right? I will never forget, I was at an event with Joyco, and all of the less melanated folks, I'm not just talking about white people, I'm talking about all of them.
Right.
All of the less melanated folks were purchasing a $7,000 bowl for the salons, right? And it was a really nice bowl, had all of these cool amenities and all this other stuff. But I was thinking to myself, we do the same thing.
Right.
Something isn't right here. Like, what's going on? So all of my other counterparts at Joyco, I started to ask some questions. I was like, so what are y'all charging? What are you charging? And I was the only African-American one there, with the exception of maybe one other one who was a trainer. But I started asking them like questions, right? So then I started to really start to question, how did you come up with these prices? And why do you feel like the amount of work that you do is only worth this, right? So for example, people feel like braids. I hear this one all the time. I don't even do braids, but I hear this one all the time. Braids should be $150 for like waist length braids that take 8 hours. And I'm not going to see you for 3 months. That math doesn't make sense. That's less than $100 a month, right? Yeah. That's less than $100. So like what I teach my students, I'm like, hey, go use the pricing guide in my book. But at the same time, I want you to consider, how often are you going to see this client? If they're getting braids, you probably won't see them for 2.5 months to 3 months, more than likely 3 months. So in 3 months' time, if they're $150, that's what, that's not even $75. That's $50 a month. Yeah, that's $50 a month. Like, is your work only
worth $50 a month?
$50 a month.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, challenging that thought pattern, right? And because as much as people say, they want to go to the hair salon more frequently, I don't think that is that they don't. I just think people's lives get busy, right? So when you're talking about specialty services like color, which I specialize in, textured extensions, which I specialize in, right? With color, I'm not, African-American women, no matter what I say, they're not going to come get their hair toned. Because the color fades off, right? And it's not going to look how it originally looked when I did it, because this isn't real. This isn't nature. Nature is going to take its course, right? So most of the time they don't come get their hair toned up. But when you come get your color, like most my colors go up as high as $600, right? But I'm okay with not seeing you no more after that.
Right.
I don't feel cheated. I feel now, do I want to see you again? Yes, because I'm very attached to my art form, right? But if you don't, cool.
Yeah.
That's a you choice.
What do you say to the women that will probably say, all these stylists are raising their prices, but our salaries don't really match the pricing that's out there, so we're not able to really afford what's being charged?
What business do you know runs based on a customer's salary?
Yeah.
I don't know any besides this industry. When people get in their feelings and get their emotions. This isn't an emotional thing. This is business, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, you're going to have your clients, they pull on your heartstrings because they've been with you for a while, right? But can you feed your family with feelings?
No.
When they call for your car note, you're going to be like, I feel like I shouldn't pay this.
Right.
And they're going to be like, I feel like we should repo it. And that's facts. That's not feelings. That's actually going to happen.
Right.
So, I find that because we work so close with our clients and you build this relationship, it becomes more of a friendship than business, right? And I have clients that I'm friends with, but they also completely understand, like, no matter how cool we are, she is still going to charge me. Like, it doesn't change because this is my livelihood, right?
Yeah.
I'm not in here doing this for fun. Historically, African-American women, hairstylists and barbers, have severely undercharged, severely. And I think the consumer got used to that because the core thing is hair is not a need. Hair is a luxury.
Hair is not a need.
It's not
hair
a need.
is a luxury.
COVID proved that.
Right.
You know, everybody went back to their factory default settings. We didn't have eyelashes. We didn't have extensions. We didn't have nails. We didn't have anything. Everybody just regular. Yeah. How you came here. Yeah. It was a full factory reset, right?
Right.
So you don't need hair to live. You know, it's a want, not a need, right? But there are also hairstylists for every level of income, right? The issue is people...
Wait a minute. There's hairstylists for every level of income.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, there is. But the issue is people want...
to work with everybody.
No, they want the people who are at the best at what they do to charge at their level of income.
Right. And then do you also think that stylists don't want to miss out on people, so they want to work with everybody?
Absolutely. Because the other end of the spectrum that the consumer doesn't understand is that most hairstylists, and I tell my students this all the time, like, y'all are horrifying with money. I'm not saying I'm an accountant, but y'all are absolutely horrifying. Like, they live from week to week. Like, hairstylists make money.
Why do you think that is? Is it because the money comes so quickly? And
it does.
A lot of it is cash?
And we're not taught to manage money in school. We're taught to make money in school. We're not taught to no one talks about money management in school.
Yeah.
They're just like, this is how you make it. They'll even put it on a board and do the math on like retail and all of this stuff. Yeah. But they do not teach you how to keep it, right? So if I'm making on a low end, right? If I'm making $2,000 a week, right? I know next week I'm getting $2,000 more, right? But no one's ever taught me how to manage my money. And I'm not forward thinking either, right? I'm going to blow this money, especially in our culture where you have, you know, in my city, we call them the pie man. The pie man coming in, selling gumbo, selling macaroni and cheese plates, like with chicken and, you know, selling jambalaya, selling cake. Right. You know, I even had a lady walk the salon I was working at. She was selling like corsets. And I went and tried one on and bought it too. You know, like, but you have all kinds of people walking in your space, right? Whether you own a salon or not, selling things, and you're like, oh well, I made this today. You know, I don't mind spending this $70 on this, but you're not, you know. And I think you can kind of back this up. It's not the big purchases that do you, and it's the small ones. You know, because you plan for big purchases.
Small ones are a beast.
Yes, yes.
You don't even realize.
No,
I've had people say, I don't understand why I don't have money. It's not like I'm buying Louis bags every day. Yeah, but you on Instacart, you on Uber Eats, you on DoorDash, and you're buying stuff that you know you could have got up to go get.
That's true.
And I've done that too, right?
Yeah.
So
that meal that could have cost you $6 cost you 20.
20.
I'm 30, to be honest with you. I'm 30, because Uber Eats got kind of...
If you remember Uber Eats in the beginning, there was no tip, there was no extra charges, so they got you hooked.
Yes.
And then they hit you with all these other service fee, delivery. We're off topic, but I had to.
But it's relevant in my industry because when you're working behind the chair, especially if you don't bring your lunch with you or you don't think beforehand. Right. Once you get hungry, you're gonna Uber eat something. Facts. You're gonna DoorDash something. You're not thinking about the money. Right. You're like, oh, I made this today. It's cool. I could do this. You know, it's cool. I could do this. You know, one of the things, and I'm not saying that I don't ever Uber Eats, but one of the things that I did do is start curtailing my spending with that. I started leaving a gift card on my Uber Eats account.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I started leaving a gift card on there so that it's like when that gift card runs out, it's done. Like, it's done. I'll add more money next month, not this month, right? But it also let me visually see what I was spending on Uber Eats, right? And it also, I did the same thing with Starbucks. Let me see it, right? Because at one point, I was the person waking up every morning going to Starbucks, Uber Eats and DoorDashing often, right? And then it just, for me, if I keep swiping my card too much, I get this feeling in my soul. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're doing a lot. Mm-mm.
Wait till you get married. If you
Yeah,
get
right.
married.
If.
Just wait if you want that to happen, and then you get that feeling for your spouse. I know he's swiping somewhere.
Yeah.
Another Amazon box. Shout out to
Yeah.
Rita. I love you.
Yeah, you better shout out. Correct that. I got your back, Rita. I got your back.
Right.
But yeah, so it's the money management, and believe it or
Mhm.
not, like I've done webinars, online trainings, free online trainings for hairstylists a lot.
Yeah.
I've had from 300 something on at one time to 60, 50 people at one time, right?
Yeah.
And I always ask the question, are you managing your money? And the comments always look the same.
Right.
No, I'm horrible with it. No. And I tell them, it's a judgment-free zone, but I'm
Right.
making you aware of it
Mm-hmm.
because you will never retire from behind that chair if you're living every week to week.
Yeah.
Because those weeks turn into months, those months turn into years.
Right.
And you'll look back and you're like, I have
Nothing
literally
to show for it.
destroyed my body.
Yeah.
And I have nothing to show for it from standing on my feet.
Because y'all are athletes.
Professional athletes.
I don't think y'all realize that,
No.
stylists. Y'all are athletes. Y'all are standing on your feet day after day, working with your hands, right? Some of you have carpal tunnel and you don't even realize it,
Thanks.
right? And y'all are athletes, so y'all should definitely be charging more. But at the same time, I want to talk about this, right? What would you say to the women that say, okay, the stylists a lot of them that are charging more, their service is still the same or it's decreased?
If it's decreased, that's a problem, right? I'm a firm believer in customer experience. I'm a firm believer in being fair to the customer, right? But not fair how they think it is, right?
Right.
I'll explain it to you. If you're a paying customer, let me clarify. If you're a paying customer, I'll explain it to you, right? But to just arbitrarily explain my processes to somebody else, like I don't owe you that, right? I believe stylists do need to change their customer experience. And I say that on my page too. Like, if you are habitually late to your appointments, why?
Right.
Like, being late every now and then, understandable, right? Life happens. I give my clients a 15-minute grace period, right? They don't get charged till after 15 minutes.
I know a stylist that she says that it depreciates, like whatever deposit they have, like within that 15 minutes. If it's 5 minutes, then it depreciates it, and then it depreciates it all the way to the end. But go ahead.
And then you have to pay the whole.
Yeah.
That'll get them in, right? But I don't have problems with clients being late, right? When I did have my assistant, I would have my assistant open the salon. She would be there 30 to 15 minutes before we opened. She would open the salon and she would be there waiting to get their shampoo service started, right? I'm currently looking for another assistant, but I get there on time for my client, right? So I believe in respecting people's time because I want you to respect my time. But like that being habitually late, canceling on people without a explanation or anything like that, I don't believe in that. Like, you shouldn't even be behind a chair, honestly, because this is a hustle for you. However you treat your business, that's how other people are going to treat their business. Treat your business. And I can honestly say I have really good clients. You know, throughout the years, I've had my mishaps with people threatening to sue me, threatening all this other stuff, right? But for the most part, I have really, really good clients. They show up on time. You know, if there's
you show up on time, it's like you respect the person, but you're probably also excited.
Right.
Get your hair done.
Exactly, right. Especially, they get wine. I serve them wine.
You get them drunk, okay.
Yeah, they get complimentary wine, all you can drink.
I love it, okay.
I'm from New Orleans. I mean, what?
That's true.
It wouldn't be right without it, right?
Right.
They get wine, they get water. I try to set the atmosphere with candles and all that other stuff. And my clients really, really, really do appreciate the extra effort that's put in, outside of just getting their hair done. The customer experience means a lot. So in that regard, consumers are correct. They should be getting that value for their money when they come in. I think if you are, my advice to people who, because they have some people that literally are late for everything in life. It doesn't matter. It's not just their business. They just late. my advice to them is get a assistant who is on time.
Right. I like that.
Who will be
I like
there to start the service.
Right.
When, you know, my assistant, the one that was with me for like 2.5 years, she had gotten so good at it that their appointment would start at 9. I wouldn't have to get to work till 11.
Right.
And by the time I got there, they were ready for me. So, but she would be there on time. But it was something that I required of her.
Mhm.
Like, this
But
is...
you're able to hire someone because you charged properly.
Facts.
So you had the money.
Facts.
Versus charging very cheap.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Now you're doing all the work yourself and you can't even grow. You can't even bring people in, create opportunities.
Facts.
That's the one thing I really love about entrepreneurship is the opportunities that you can create.
Right, right.
Like imagine a hairstylist working somewhere else and she would be perfect with you, but she just doesn't know who you are. And you also don't have the budget to bring her in.
Right.
But if you had the means to bring her in, she would gel within your establishment and she would propel you to that next level.
Right. Pretty much. I mean, and then even my assistant, I would ask her often, I'm like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, do you just want to work with me for the rest of your life? Or do you, what do you want to do? Because I would tell them, like, I don't expect you to be here.
That's amazing because most people are greedy. You know, most people are like, I'm not going to put that in that person's ear. I don't want them to leave. I want them to be here forever.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I like even my stylist that just left. I had that conversation with her. We were out. I think we were in Maryland teaching.
Mm-hmm.
She was assisting me, and I asked her, I was like, "Are you happy at the salon?" She was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I love it though." Like, I'm like, you know, what do you want to do? Do you plan on leaving anytime soon? Like, what are your aspirations? What do you want to specialize in? And she shared it with me because I don't believe in trying to hold people there. Like, if you want to stay, I'll gladly have you, right? If you're a quality employee, I'll gladly have you, right?
Yeah.
But if you have bigger aspirations, I'm also a firm believer in helping you achieve those goals. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that when I got in this industry, I had very, very little guidance, right? So I try to be the boss that I wanted.
Right. This has been an amazing conversation. I feel like you have such a wealth of knowledge. And I feel like, well, you told me earlier that you do have a coaching program and you mentor different ladies, you know, on how to not only just do hair, but to actually have a business.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's what's missing with a lot of people, not just in the hairstyling industry, but just in general in entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
We are great at what we do, right? We can cut hair good, we can style hair good, we can prepare a tax return amazingly, but then we don't necessarily have the knowledge on how to run an actual business and how to make the client experience good, how to have good customer service, how to be professional, you know, all the things that will allow you to increase your price, right? Which will allow you to attract better clientele as well. Right. The better entrepreneur that you are, people out there see that.
Yeah.
Right. And then the people that you really want to work with are attracted to you. And then now you can repel the people that you don't want to work with by increasing your price.
Basically, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
I think that's why I get so much flack on my pricing posts. But
yes, talk about your coaching program.
So I have an academy called Shade Studio Online Academy, and we talk about everything from business structure to business credit. To technical skills actually behind the chair.
We also about business credit too?
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually had Shelly Jones come in and do a business credit class. She actually still is a hairstylist. Okay. But she also does business credit too. And she wants to teach hairstylists how to do business credit. Well, I'm gonna say wants to, she's doing it, right? Nice. So I brought her in because hairstylists and barbers have this thing where they don't like hearing information from people that's not like them. Right. I mean, I think it's weird, but I also understand it. It's kind of like.
What do you mean when you say not like them? What does that mean?
Not hairstylists, not barbers, right? Because the idea is you're not behind this chair, so you don't understand the struggle, right? Like, I'm tired when I get off work. I don't have time for this, and I don't have time for that. It's not really that you don't have time; you won't make time. Right?
What about listening to someone that used to be behind the chair but successfully got it from behind?
They'll listen to them. Okay. They'll listen to them. It's just the people that they feel like you don't experience what I experience, so how can you tell me because you're not here, right? And I can say that from experience because as a blogger, the hairstylist that I did befriend, I would always give them business ideas, and they'd be like, "But girl, there's so much behind the share." And I thought they were making excuses. And it's not that it's not an excuse, but it is actually a valid point because you are wiped out.
Yeah.
Right? But that also comes with pricing, financial decisions.
If I'm gonna be your therapist, I need more money. And that's part of being a stylist barber. Like, you are someone that I can talk to.
Right.
Even though I don't want to, you might be styling and you don't want to talk, but you got to entertain that conversation.
I've had people burst into tears in my chair, and it's like, yeah, I don't really know what to do with this emotion, but I'll try. Because I'll try. But it on top of that, like, you taking, I remember when I was teaching at a hair school one time, I asked my students, like, what is your goal for clients a day? And I had 2 men in my cosmetology class, right? And one of them told me he wanted to
Wait, you take men students as well?
Yes, I do take barbers.
Oh, nice.
And there are male cosmetologists that, like the craft, but I was teaching the cosmetology course like at a school, and they were 2 of my students. I had 2 guys in there who were getting cosmetology licenses, right? And I asked one of them, I said, what do you plan on doing when you get out of school? Like, what is your target clientele? He planned on doing 25 heads for $30 a piece. And I said, are you serious right now? He was like, I'm serious. So what I do is, a huge thing that I do with my coaching is I make them do the numbers.
Right.
I'll tell them, like, look, if you're charging, and this is super low end, if you're charging $20 for a consultation, on average, how many new clients do you get a month? Okay, you tell me 30, right? If you're not charging for consultations, if you implement charging $20, you get on average 30 new clients a month. That's $600 a month that you're letting go out the window because you're not charging. And that's on the low end.
Right.
Because my consultations aren't $20. But when I started off, they were.
Right.
When I started charging, when I got the idea to do it. But I give them that realistic number because it's like, in your mind, you can take 25 people. But your body cannot take that. Like, your body cannot take that.
And especially, I'm pretty sure a lot of you stylists and barbers, after you stop for the day, you're probably going out that night too, having a blast, and you got to come. Y'all are athletes.
Facts.
Athletes.
I've had days where I couldn't walk the next day. I specifically remember when I was still doing braids. I was on my feet for like 10 hours straight. No breaks, right? And I woke up and I couldn't walk. I took them braids off my menu that day.
Wow.
I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Wow.
I'm never doing this. I'm done.
Here's the thing too, though. I think because we've all charged cheap.
Right.
Right? And I think we look at it from the standpoint of, well, if I was working a job, let's say, I don't know, McDonald's or somewhere, I would be making X amount of dollars per hour.
Right.
But I'm here, I get to make $20 or $25 per hour. Remember back in the day it was like 10.
Yeah.
Growing up, my haircuts were $10, right?
Yeah. No, it was.
You could charge. I'm charging $20 to $25 per head. I get to control my schedule, and I get to be independent. No one's telling me what to do.
Thanks.
So you look at it from that standpoint of, okay, that's more money than what I would be making at a job like that. But then at some point, something goes off in your mind. It's like, okay, I've been doing this at the same level year after year, and I'm not able to take vacations.
Right.
There are barbers that don't take vacations because when they come back, their clientele's gone.
Right.
And I would think that happens in the styling industry possibly.
Yeah, it's kind of, but you know what, actually, yeah, but men are more loyal than women.
Men are more loyal than women? Okay.
Women tend to be chair hoppers.
Okay.
Not all of them.
Let's say that for the next time, but.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm making a point. I'm saying, like, it can happen, but it's not necessarily, the issue is really not that you can't find people. It's it's money management.
Right. But like I was saying though, right? Like when we look at it from that standpoint of this is more money than what I'm used to.
Right.
Then now it's like you're not even thinking about, wait, I need to grow.
Right.
I need
Forward
to be able
thinking.
I need to be able to make enough money to where I can have time for myself and my family.
Right.
Because you might be a single person without any kids or like a spouse at that moment when you start the business, but life happens.
Right.
You might end up having a child. You might end up getting married.
Right.
doing all these things. And now you can't operate it the same way
At all.
when you were single and had all this time.
Yeah.
Also, we get older.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now your body doesn't operate the same way that it was when you were 18 or 19 and you could just do whatever to your body, beat it up, So I think a lot of times we look at it from that perspective of, hey, this is more money than what I'm used to. But then when they run into people like you that can coach them and say, you need to increase your prices, here's another thing too that we got to factor in, the mindset, right? The confidence.
Right.
Because increasing your prices requires a certain level of confidence.
Right. Certain level of audacity, I call it.
Audacity as well. Yes.
Audacity, that's what I call it. And that is very true, but I always tell people knowledge kills fear. Knowledge kills fear. The reason you're scared is because you feel like you don't know.
Right.
But if you go increase your knowledge, that fear will go away, right? So I often get people that say, because for some reason, and I'm sure you've experienced this, people see your chapter 10 and they're like, but you can take this class and you can do this, you can afford this, right? A $1,500 class is no longer expensive to me, right? But there was a time when it was, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't let that get in my way. One thing I teach my students as far as mindset is concerned is like, how bad do you want it? We live in a gig society, right? Okay, let's say there is for example, at the time when I took this class, I got to spend like $2,000 something on this class. At the time, that was the most money I had ever spent on a class, right? I didn't have the money on hand, but I started doing DoorDash. I started doing Uber Eats.
Hustling.
I started doing grocery delivery. I did whatever I needed to do. I found payment plans for airfare. I found out I did like the Priceline, the Priceline, not the express deals, right? I was finding really good hotels for like $60 a night.
Right.
Now, mind you, with the express deals, they don't tell you where you're going.
Right.
Tell you pick it, but they also tell you, whether it's going to be a 4-star, 3.5-star, and at the bottom they tell you the similar quality, right? I was getting hotels like in Chicago on the waterfront for like $60 a night and stuff like that. So I think it's, like you said, mindset, right? I wasn't going to let the fact that the money wasn't there stop me, because in this society, all I have to do is download an app and sign up.
Right.
And boom, I got the money. Most hairstylists, most classes are set up to where you just pay a deposit and then you go take the class and you pay the remaining balance. So you got time to save up.
Right.
You got time to save up. All you got to do is do the math. How much money do I need?
Right.
Okay, if it's not coming in behind the chair, what do I need? What kind of hustle do I need to do to get it? Because if you fully believe knowledge will kill your fear, then you'll go get it.
Right.
But if you
fully believe knowledge will kill your fear, you're going to go out there and get it.
Damn, I have some good quotes.
You really do. This is good. We got to do a part 2 at some point if you're open to that.
Cool.
'Cause I feel like there's a lot of things that we still haven't covered.
Yeah.
That's going to really help a lot of people in the industry and just people in business in general.
Right.
Can you tell everybody where they can find you online?
Yes, you guys can find me at Strawberry Curls, Strawberry with an I, not a Y, everything. If you Google me, I will come up. So Strawberry Curls, all of my social media handles are the same. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, I'm the Strawberry Curls. Somebody stole my name on there.
Look at that.
I know, right? Just shady. She doesn't even post anything.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But it's Strawberry Curls with an I and not a Y. And feel free to shoot me an email, info@strawberrycurls.com. If I don't respond, someone else will.
And if someone wants to become like a student of you, how do they just
Yes.
contact you through there?
So my academy, I have enrollment periods. Like you can't just click it and sign up, right?
But you have a wait list maybe?
Yeah, you can sign up for the email list. I do a lot of free trainings. Like I have a free round brush training coming up and I do that one every month. So that can be found actually on my Instagram page. It's always in the link in my bio. So
I love it. That. Gabby said, look, this ain't open enrollment. I'm gonna make y'all wait. And on top of that, because I know my worth and my value, and you ain't about to have me going crazy out here, right? So we appreciate you for coming on. I know this has been a discussion that we've had for a long time.
Yeah, it is.
And it finally happened.
We're here now.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yes. So thank you for all the knowledge that you gave.
Thank you for having me.
To everybody. and we appreciate you. This is another classic. I just keep dropping classic after classic after classic. It's another classic episode of 8 Figure Focus, and until next time,